Howard Carter had just opened the antechamber of the lost tomb of Tutankhamun. At that moment, Carter couldn't have known what he was about to release. For thousands of years, people have gone to Egypt, looked at the pyramids, obelisks, and mummies and gone, hey, that's pretty neat, and then made it their whole personality. One of the first examples of this is in 30 BC. Octavian has just defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, bringing Egypt under Roman rule. Suddenly, the Romans were obsessed with everything Egyptian and started cramming Egyptian culture into anything they made, like mosaics, obelisks, and even their very own pyramid. This obsession with all things Egyptian would eventually come to be called Egyptomania, and it became a recurring phenomenon throughout history. Another notable wave came after Napoleon's trip to Egypt. Although militarily it was a disaster for Napoleon, he took a bunch of nerds with him that thoroughly documented the ancient monuments like never before, and made important discoveries that led to the creation of the field of Egyptology. Soon, Europe's museums were flooded with artifacts, borrowed from Egypt. In 1828, the novel The Mummy was published, which was the first time a cursed tomb and a mummy returning to life were described to an English-speaking audience. To be clear, this is not your classic tale of an adventurer entering a tomb and finding a mummy. The novel was set in the year 2126. This idea of protective curses flourished in Victorian England. Tourism to Egypt went up, creating a souvenir market for trinkets, photos, and dead bodies. Yep, nothing was more fashionable than coming back with your very own mummy and hiring a guy to unwrap it at a party. Hey, Dave, isn't this a little bit, disrespectful? A little. We're desecrating the dead. Should we be worried? I heard that mummies can be cursed. Considering there's a finite amount of mummies and so much demand with us, unwrapping them and eating them. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, it's a whole thing. With so much demand, people have just been getting modern bodies and making them look like they're authentic mummies. So the chances that this is a real one and cursed are pretty low. So when Howard Carter chipped open that door, he couldn't have known what he was about to release. Not a curse, but rather a media obsession. The tomb's discovery made headlines. Due to the fact that it was hidden and forgotten, it hadn't been disturbed for thousands of years. It managed to stay hidden for so long because the pharaohs after Tutankhamun tried to erase him from history. Before Tutankhamun, his father Akhenaten was pharaoh, and he wanted to make some changes. For thousands of years, his people had worshipped thousands of gods. Yeah, but that's a bit confusing. Let's just worship one god. The sun god. So you want to change a fundamental practice of our religion that has been carried out for millennia? Yeah, this move will be extremely unpopular with pretty much everyone. Yeah, do it. Since he was pharaoh, everyone pretended to play along. When Akhenaten died and 9-year-old Tutankhamun was put on the throne, he undid the changes and everything went back to normal. A few generations down the line, the pharaohs looked back at this religious blip and said, yeah, that was pretty lame. Let's just wipe Akhenaten and anyone connected to him, his son, from history. How would we do that, sir? Strike them from the list of kings and destroy any statues of them. Since Tutankhamun's tomb was almost exactly the same as it had been when it was sealed, it gave insights into the ancient culture that had previously been unimaginable. This made it famous and meant the global press was keeping a close eye on its excavation when, 5 months after the tomb's discovery, George Herbert, Earl of Carnarvon, the funder of the expedition, suddenly died. The press swooped on the death with relish, and quickly, the story of an ancient curse re-emerged. Rumors ran rampant regarding retaliatory ritual rites ravishing the ranks of the ragged retinue. Some said that when the tomb was opened, Carter's pet canary was swallowed by a cobra, and at the moment of Carnarvon's death, that all the lights in Cairo went out and Carnarvon's dog dropped dead. The newspapers described a curse inscribed on a wall within the tomb. Of course, no such inscription existed, but that didn't stop readers from lapping it up. Arthur Conan Doyle added fuel to the fire, saying that Lord Carnarvon was killed by an elemental spirit that the king's priests had summoned to guard his tomb. The real story was much less dramatic. While shaving one day, he nicked a mosquito bite. The cut got infected, and he died. Keep in mind that this was 1920s Egypt. Antibiotics wouldn't become widely available for another 20 years, and the sanitary conditions, left a lot to be desired. But once the story of the curse had started, it was impossible to stop. And so people went looking for more victims to add to the list. George J. Gould visited the tomb and later died of a fever. And A.C. Mace, a member of the excavation team, died of pneumonia. These causes of death were pretty common, and given the conditions that the team was working and living in, were hardly extraordinary. The only truly mysterious death is that of Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary and the second man to enter the tomb, who was found smothered to death in his bed, with his killer still remaining unknown to this day. Howard Carter, the man who opened the tomb and removed King Tut's body from its sarcophagus, lived on for 16 more years before dying at the age of 64. Studies into the lifespan of members of the expedition has found that, for the time, they lived slightly longer than average. So if there was a magical curse, it wasn't doing a great job. So yeah, the curse was a story that the media ran with to capitalize on their Egypt-obsessed audience.